This is the PL-89 Gematriatic Quantum Thought Calendar for Sunday, October 12th, 2025, and it is Yom Rishon, first day of the week, the 20th day of Tishrei. We are in the middle of the holiday of Sukkot. 20 Tishrei 5786. The Torah portion of the week is actually Bereshit, but before that it'll be V'zot HaBracha. So, which will be read on Simchat Torah, Shmini Atzeret, Simchat Torah in Israel. It's the same day, but outside of Israel, they're two different days. And the purpose of this calendar is to understand Gematria and understand the Torah. And it's a way of learning the Torah through Gematria in a timely manner. Hence, calendar. It's two calendars. It's the lunar and solar calendar coming together as one. And the lunar calendar, the Hebrew calendar, is the lunar calendar, and it also includes the Islamic calendar, which today is the same number day as the Hebrew calendar. And on the Islamic calendar, it's the 20th day of Rabi al-Thani, which is it's the 20th day of Tishrei on the Hebrew calendar. And I started including the Islamic calendar together with the Hebrew calendar in order to bring peace. And unity can be peace, and if unity is done at a thought level, perhaps it can or should be able to trickle down to the physical level. And the solar calendar is October 12th. And on this calendar, oh, by the way, the idea of the Islamic coming together with the Christian and the Jewish is actually found in a verse that have an equidistant of 19 letters. It's right near the Torah portion of Vayetze, and it gives reason for a 19 letter skip, because 19 is a metonic year cycle, 19 years. So there's a 19 letters skip. And I'll leave it at that. So today on the Hebrew calendar, it's 20th of Tishrei. And the 20th day of any month is going to be found in box 40 right at the bottom. That means we've basically finished the entire cycle. It starts up here, okay? Av 1 starts here. In this dispensation, you start from Av 1, and it goes through 80 days. When you hit day 80, you're going to be at box 40, because these are two 40-day periods. And this 40 is October 20th, it's Tishrei 20th, it's Rabi al-Thani 20, which is today. It's any 20 that is, no rhyme intended, but it was just rhymed anyway. Any day that's the 20th will be in this box, in this dispensation. When I say dispensation, it means that Av starts here, El is here, and then Tishrei is here. At different dispensations, you start at different places. But for where we are right now, up until, God willing, spring of next year, springtime meaning after Passover next year, ER time, the Omer time of 5786 will conclude the third dispensation, which means all dispensations of this calendar will be complete. And that should be very interesting to see, because that would be 14 years. Just about 14 years and that might compare to the 14 years that Jacob was studying in the yeshiva of Shem Aver, like they say. Compare it to something, might as well compare it to that. On this calendar, the box 40 is the 20th, and what can I think about 40? Ideally, something should have to do with 40 today. Can't think of anything about 40, but the coordinates are H10, 40. And on the Gregorian calendar, it's October 12th. It's very interesting. It's one of those numbers that whatever date it is, the way this calendar is made, certain days, if it's the 12th, it'll actually land in box 12 because it doesn't, as you can see, it doesn't go in sequential order. It doesn't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It goes 8 plus 9, 8 plus 9, 8 plus 9, and then 40 is the reset. So 8 plus 9, 8 plus 9, so it's 8, 17, 25, 34, 2, 11, 19, 28, 36, 5, 36, then 5, 13, 22, etc. So when we finish the end of this calendar, that means we're at the end of what I would call in the past a mercurial year, meaning a year on Mercury, because that's another correlation between 88 or 89 days, which is about 90 days. It's all around the same amount of time. That what's written about the planet Mercury is that it takes 88 of our Earth days to orbit the Sun. And that's what this calendar is. So there's 4 of these years in one of our Earth years. So every time we finish I used to call it a mercurial year. I don't call it that anymore because of the aspect of mythology, the deity, the Roman mythology. I didn't want to really identify with that too much. So I made it to a downplay. And every time I mention the Mercury calendar, I'll say that thing that I don't call it the Mercury calendar, but I call it by its Hebrew name, Kochav Chama, which is the Hebrew name for the planet Mercury. And so it's based on that, if in fact it does. I mean, it's published, but who knows what they come out with these days and how you can be so sure of anything. But anyway, 12 is one of those boxes that October 12th or Tishrei 12 or any 12 is going to be box number 12, and that's very few boxes are like that. You have that with 16, you have that with, and I went through this before to find which boxes are the boxes that match up that number, and it's a very simple arithmetic reason. You can just see the way you start and the amount of months and the sequence of adding 8 plus 9, 8 plus 9, and it's going in an order, and it cuts off at 40. You'll see that certain boxes. It's probably really easy to explain. I saw the reason I saw it clearly, but then I don't know if I could explain it actually. But it has to do with when you start, and then when it cuts off, and then at 30, and then when you start again. So the way that's all made, it comes out that 12 is one of those boxes that it's just 12 through and through. And so the thought that I had is that 12, it's a permutation. If it's like 0, 1, 2, it could be 1, 2, 0, which could be 120. And I didn't explain the rule of 40, but I'll explain it real quickly. The rule of 40 is that any one of these boxes, if you add 40 to it, and it just goes up and up and up, and it stays the same number. That's the rule. That's a very important rule, very helpful for keeping a file of certain numbers that stay the same. You can really hold a lot of things in place that way. Like for example, 40 is considered 80, is considered 120. Now, there's a relationship between all those three when it comes to Moses, which is part of the inspiration for this time thing. Because Moses was hid for 3 months, according to Exodus 2. He was hid for 3 months, and this thing is 3 months. And since he was a redeemer, Goel, the gematria of Goel is also 40. So he was hid for 3 months. This is based on 40, and the redeemer in Hebrew equals the number 40. So that is one reason why it ends off at 40, because it's kind of like one of the themes of this calendar. But what I was saying before was the rule of 40 is that 40 is equal to 80, is equal to 120, is equal to 160, is equal to 200, is equal to 2,040,040. Because whenever you add 40 to it, it's just considered the same number. And you'll see how it's helpful. In the case of Moses, it's very helpful because the number 40 is directly related to 80 and directly related to 120. You could call that's all Moses, because it was taught, and I'm not sure if it's written inside, but that he was 40 years old when this incident happened with the Egyptian. It certainly is written that he was 80, and then he came at 40 years he was away, and then He came back around age 80. When it says in the verse in Exodus, when he stood before Pharaoh, he was 80 years old. I think it's in Exodus 7. Aaron was 83, he was 80, okay? And then 40 years in the wilderness, okay, he's 120. So you see that 40, 80, 120, it's all one thing, it's all Moses. So that is another inspiration. Many of the ideas of this calendar are based on on the verses, on biblical things. So 120 is very interesting because today, I finished the Torah readings because the cycle of Torah readings started last year around this time, and we complete the whole book every year. And so right now we're holding by the end of Sukkot. It's like the Zod HaBracha, the last. But my personal readings, I finished today, and I came across a verse that said, "And Moses was 120 years old when he passed away. His eyes did not go dim, and he didn't lose any of his natural freshness, his energy, his life energy was still strong as when he was young, I guess." So that verse is actually it reminds you of 120 and 40. The rule of 40 makes 40 equal to 120. So that's how it's supposed to work. Something that you read on the day has to correlate, and you have to find it here. So that's it. Now, I've explained this before. As far as 12 in October, I'm not really sure. In the last verse, this is great. This came to me right now. The last chapter of Deuteronomy, chapter 34, has 12 verses, that's where I read that Moses was 120. It's not just that 12 is equal to 120 because 12 is a permutation of 012. That's also good. But that's like trying to find something. This is better. This is chapter 34 of Deuteronomy has 12 verses. And I read those 12 verses today. And in those 12 verses it said that Moses was 120 years old. That's a very good demonstration of how this is supposed to work. So now, I explained this before. If this is 90 days, right? But you're seeing only 80 days. So where's that extra 10 days? The answer is it's under here, but it's invisible. And it's a period called the 10-day twilight period, which means that after you've finished and you're 80 days of a 90-day period, you're basically like on the cusp. You're kind of like moving into the next, like what I would call mercurial year, or Kochav Chama year, or just next season of this calendar, Tekufa. So the Tekufa in this case was Av, Elul, Tishrei. That would correspond to August, September, and October. And then the next period, the next mercurial year, so to speak, would be starting with Cheshvan / November. And then it would be November, December, January, or corresponding to Cheshvan, Kislev, and Tevis. So it goes by 3 months, and the 10-day twilight period, that's when it goes in sequential order. Then it's just going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, however many days you have in it. Sometimes, if it's a Hebrew month, it could be 29 days. If it's a Gregorian, it could be 31. But that's that period, the 10-day twilight period here, and that's the PL-89 for today.